Welcome to another episode of some shit you just won't catch me doing. And shit that just doesn't make sense. The most avoidable cave dives ever. Part 2.
Nam Talu Cave. On October 13th, 2007, 9 people entered Nam Talu Cave in Khao Sok National Park, Thailand. The group included 6 tourists, 4 Swiss nationals, a 10-year-old boy from Germany, and a teenage girl from the UK, as well as 2 Thai guides. The cave is known for its
Kinda
scenic
Jeffrey
passages filled with
Epstein-ass
shallow
shit is
water.
this?
During the dry
One
season,
girl?
guided tours are common, but this tour
What
took
if y'all
place in the
get
middle
lost?
of Thailand's rainy season. The group entered the cave shortly after noon. The weather
Hey,
at the entrance was
somebody
stable.
right about
No
that.
rain had fallen in the area that morning, and conditions
Y'all on
seemed
some
safe.
Epstein
However,
shit.
rainfall had occurred further upstream in the nearby
Oh,
mountains,
hell no.
where the cave's watershed begins. Because Nam Talu is part of a complex drainage system, it is highly sensitive to upstream flooding. As the group made their way through the cave, they followed a stream passage that grew deeper. The guides noticed that the water level was slowly rising, but they continued deeper.
Why the fuck is
Minutes
you?
later, a flash flood surged through the tunnel. The water rose quickly and flooded the narrow sections of the cave. Panic broke out. One of the guides instructed the group to climb a slope toward higher
No,
ground.
turn
Some
around.
managed to reach safer areas. Others were caught in the current. The water filled the tunnel within minutes, leaving no airspace in sections. The narrow passageway gave the group no room to escape. 8 of the 9 people inside the cave drowned. Only the British teenager survived by climbing onto a narrow ledge above the water. She waited there for more than 16 hours before being rescued by a search.
Damn.
The other tourists and both Thai guides were found dead. Among the victims was the 10-year-old boy from Germany. The incident drew national attention. Authorities closed the cave and later issued a seasonal closure.
I mean, why do
From
y'all
June to
go
November
in
each
them
year,
bitches
the cave would
anyway?
remain off limits due to the risk of flash flooding. Signs were installed at the entrance to warn visitors. Local tour companies were instructed not
And
to
you want to know the crazy thing about it? You got people who will still go in that motherfucker. You got people who will still go in that motherfucker. For real, for real.
conduct tours during this time. For more than a decade, the seasonal closure was respected, but enforcement was inconsistent. Some tour operators quietly resumed cave tours during the rainy months if surface weather conditions seemed safe. In
No.
many cases, the risk was underestimated.
Yeah,
On
yeah,
August
when they
6th,
say that shit,
2024,
yeah.
another group entered the Nam Talu cave despite the official closure. The group included 22 tourists and 2 Thai guides.
What I
The
tell-
weather at the
what I
time
tell you?
appeared normal. It had rained the previous
shoot.
evening, but the skies were clear that morning. The group
Dumb-
began their
what-
tour in the
what that
afternoon.
supposed to mean?
At around 5 p.m., while the group was exiting the cave, a flash flood struck. Water from upstream had reached the cave system and rushed through the narrow tunnel. The force of the water trapped the group inside. Thai rescue teams were dispatched quickly. They were able to extract the tourists and one of the guides. However, the second guide, a 37-year-old man, was swept away by the current. His body was found several hours later. He had been helping others escape when the flood overwhelmed him. An investigation
At
followed.
least he went
The
out
Park
like a
Service confirmed that the
motherfucking,
cave had been
but
closed
you
at the
shouldn't
time.
have never
The tour
even been
company
in there.
responsible had violated the seasonal closure policy.
Yeah.
Legal action was taken against the operator for negligence. After the 2024 incident, park officials strengthened safety
people
measures.
still
Despite
are
these
going
efforts, concerns remain. Some local operators continue to minimize the risks. In a region where tourism is a major source of income, there is pressure to keep popular attractions open. Visitors unfamiliar with the cave's history may
Why?
not understand the danger. The Nam Talu cave
It don't
disasters
even matter about the fucking dangers of the motherfucking cave. Why do y'all even go in caves, bro? Like, what? But y'all folk don't have nothing
are
else
among the
better to
most
do, bro.
avoidable cave deaths in recent memory. Schroeder's Pants Cave. On February 13th, 1965, 3 members of the Boston Grotto Club arrived in the small town of Dolgeville, New York. Their goal was to explore a cave in the foothills of the Adirondacks, known as Schroeder's Pants Cave. The group included 23-year-old James Mitchell, a chemist from Massachusetts, nurse Hetty Miller, and Harvard graduate student Charles Bennett. Before entering the cave, Mitchell visited George Lyon, a local man who, together with Herb Schroeder, had discovered the cave in 1947. Lyon provided them with background information on the layout of the cave, but no one warned them about the conditions inside. Temperatures had
Damn.
hovered around freezing earlier that week, leading to increased
You
runoff.
shouldn't have never
Ice
went
cold
in there,
water was
so
now
hey, you
pouring
got
through the
your
cave's
ass slide
passageways.
out. You shouldn't have
Despite
never
this,
went in there,
the 3 cavers
motherfucker, in the
entered.
first
They worked their
fucking
way through the
place.
named sections of the cave, Lemon Squeeze, Z-Bend, and Gun Barrel, until they reached an open chamber with a vertical shaft that dropped roughly 80 feet or about 24 meters into a bell-shaped cavern below.
Damn.
Mitchell was the first to attempt the descent. He clipped into his safety lines and began lowering himself down, but something went wrong. He stopped partway down and appeared to be in trouble. According to Miller, Mitchell attempted to descend further, then tried to climb back up the rope. He was unable to make progress in either direction. He was being hit directly by the water flowing down the shaft. Rescue reports estimated that about 10 gallons or 38 liters of freezing water were landing on his head every minute. The cold quickly
but
became a serious
hypothermia.
factor. Mitchell's strength began to fade. His voice became weaker. Eventually, he stopped speaking altogether. Bennett and Miller tried to pull him up. They spent 45 minutes struggling with the rope, but couldn't lift him out. Realizing the situation was beyond what they could manage, Bennett exited the cave to find help. A newly formed cave rescue team, the National
Like,
Capital Grotto
it's
Rescue
so
Squad,
crazy
flew
that
in
they
from
got
Washington,
that is
D.C.
a
on Air
joke.
Force Two. The operation quickly made national headlines. Among the 6 young rescuers was Doug Bradford. None of them had experience with an actual cave rescue, but they had trained for similar situations. They made their
Like,
way
it's
into the
crazy.
cave and
This
reached
is
the
the
shaft.
fucking joke.
Their first attempt was to pull Mitchell up by the rope, but it was immediately clear that he was no longer
Yeah.
alive. Bradford later explained that Mitchell's body was limp and that they quickly understood it would now be a recovery effort. The team worked on widening parts of the cave. They spent 3 days trying to make space to bring the body out, but during one of their rigging attempts, part of the shaft collapsed. Dirt and debris began falling down into the cave. It was no longer safe to continue. With Mitchell's body still suspended by his harness, the cave was sealed. Explosives were used to close the main entrance. Large rocks were placed over the collapse, and a memorial headstone was installed near the site. Pierre Saint Martin Cave. In August 1952, an
I can't really say like also you fucked around and found that. Like I don't feel bad for when y'all take y'all dumb ass and shit. When this is like going in a cave is like just like equivalent of just jumping in a pit with fucking snakes and shit. Like and you chose to do it. Like that, it ain't something that you was told. You just chose to do it. So I don't feel bad for you. You made that choice.
National caving
you
expedition
feel me?
began descending
Damn,
into the
they
Pierre
left it
Saint Martin
by.
cave system, located in the Pyrenees along the border of France and Spain. At the time, it was considered the deepest known cave in the world. Among the team was Marcel Lubin, a 33-year-old French engineer and experienced cave explorer. He served as the second in command of the expedition, which was led by Belgian Professor Cossens. The team had spent nearly a week underground, setting up rope ladders, exploring new passages, and mapping vertical
You notice
shafts
how
deep inside
none
the
of these
mountain.
folk
On
be
Wednesday,
black? Like,
August
you just noticed
27th,
that?
after 6 days underground, Lubins was being hauled up through a vertical shaft as part of the ascent out of the cave. He was suspended by a steel cable attached to a winch system. But just as he was being lifted up the final stretch, the cable snapped.
Ooh.
Lubins fell 130 feet
Yeah,
or
he
almost
dead.
40
He
meters
dead.
straight down a rock slope into the
He's
shaft.
dead.
He survived the fall,
Huh?
but the impact left him severely injured with a broken back. He lost consciousness shortly
paralyzed.
after hitting the ground and fell into a coma. He was now lying 1,260 feet or 384 meters below the surface,
Damn.
inside one of the deepest parts of the cave system. Despite the immense difficulty, a rescue operation was
I don't
launched.
think they can.
Team members climbed down rope ladders to reach him. A doctor descended into the cave to assess his condition, working by headlamp and candlelight in the cold, damp chamber where Lubins lay unconscious. Despite the risks, a blood transfusion was performed in the cave, an extraordinary attempt at underground medicine. The rescue teams stabilized him as best they could. Over the next 2 days, they attempted to hoist him slowly back toward the surface using a manual winch system, but the shaft was narrow and conditions were dangerous. As the rescue progressed, rocks began to loosen inside the shaft. Falling debris now posed a danger not just to Lubins, but also to the cavers working
So they
below.
just left
On the
him down
evening of
now?
August 29th, after nearly 36 hours of rescue efforts, Marcel Lubins died underground. The Jord Brugrada cave tragedy. On February 6, 2014, 5 experienced Finnish cave divers prepared to enter one of the most dangerous underwater cave systems
This
in
even
Europe.
worse.
Florigrada, also known as Jord Brugrada.
Not only is
located
it a
in northern
cave,
Norway.
it's up on the
Their
water.
goal was ambitious. Dive through a 420 feet or 130 meter deep submerged passage, reach the other side of the mountain, and surface in a distant dry cave chamber. It was a journey that required precision, discipline, and perfect
Yeah,
coordination.
but,
Each diver carried a closed circuit rebreather, a high-tech breathing system that recycles air to allow deep dives for extended periods. The group was well prepared, but this cave had claimed lives before. The tunnels were narrow, the water near freezing, and the depth pushed the limits of human endurance. At first, everything went smoothly. The divers followed a fixed guideline that led through the submerged passages. They moved in a staggered formation, each managing their own buoyancy and trim in total darkness. After navigating through tight restrictions, they reached the deepest part of the route, where visibility dropped and the tunnels grew more unstable. Then, something went wrong. Around 360 feet or 110 meters deep, one diver, Jari, got stuck. It was in a narrow restriction between two rock walls, a point in the cave where movement was
I
tight
ain't gonna
even
lie,
in
like
perfect
this
conditions.
story right here, this shit gonna fuck me up because a nigga, and I ain't gonna lie, but I am terrified of that motherfucking ocean, boy. If I go to a beach, I'm on the sand or you know how like the water, the waves and shit come up. Like I'm on the motherfucking part where like the water don't even splash no more. It just flat on the ground. You feel me? I'm on that part of the motherfucking beach.
He became wedged, unable to go forward or
Dum,
back,
dum,
and his
dum, dum.
rebreather began malfunctioning. In
Dum,
moments like
dum,
this,
dum, dum,
panic is fatal. Another
dum.
diver, Patrick, tried to help, but the tunnel was too narrow for both of them to maneuver. Visibility was dropping fast, and the water temperature was just above freezing. Silt from the cave floor filled the tunnel, and now both men were blind. Jari's breathing became frantic,
dead.
and soon his mouthpiece slipped out. Patrick tried desperately to
He
hold on to
dead.
him, to insert the backup regulator, to free his partner's arm, but the effort failed. He had to make a choice. Stay and die with him, or leave and find help. He left. Back at
He
the
dead.
surface, the remaining divers began to realize something was wrong. Two men were missing. Emergency services were contacted, and within hours, the Norwegian police closed the cave. The bodies, they said, were unreachable, but the team
What?
didn't accept that. A few weeks later, a new plan was made in secret. A team of Finnish divers, including close friends of the deceased, returned to the cave against official orders. Over the course of 100 hours, they
I'm lost
penetrated
for
the
words.
deadly
I ain't even got
system
nothing to
again,
say.
this time solely for recovery. They worked in total silence, inching their way through the tunnel, navigating the same restrictions that had claimed their friends. When they reached the spot where Jari had died, they found his body still suspended in the narrow passage. His rebreather was flooded, his arms still in the same position as when he had last tried to escape. Behind him, deeper in the cave, they found Diver 2, believed to be Kai, who had died while attempting to reach or help Jari. His equipment was mostly intact, but he had run out of breathable gas long before help could have arrived. After carefully securing the bodies and extracting them through some of the tightest passages in the system, the team brought their friends home. It was one of the most difficult recovery dives in history,
Shoulda never took your
documented in the
head down,
2016 film Diving into the Unknown. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe for
Shoulda
similar
motherfucking took your motherfucking ass down there. You feel me? That's exactly how I feel about all this motherfucking cave diving. So you shouldn't have motherfucking took your ass down there. But hey man, let me know how y'all felt about that. And yeah, we out.
Biggie Guala.